So doing well in your internship is incredibly important because it increases the likelihood that you'll get offered a permanent position after your internship ends. And given how difficult it is to get a graduate job these days, it's really important that you make the most of this opportunity that you have. And in this video, I'll share some tips which should lead you to have a successful internship. It might be the case that after you finish your internship, you realize or you come to find out that the team that you did your internship with doesn't have any full-time opportunities. So if you do impress during your internship, you might even get chances with other teams in the same organization. Or it might be the case that you do so well that you get a choice in terms of which team you join permanently. So you really want to make sure that you make the most of this opportunity. And through this video, you'll have an idea about how you can do that. So even before your first day on the internship, you want to make sure that you set yourself up for success by preparing beforehand. And so that means having a look on the internet and having a look at other resources to go over, I suppose, again, what the team does, what your role will be, what the department does, and what the organization as a whole does for clients. And I say again because you would have done that preparation during your interview for the internship. Have a look over those notes again. And a great source again is YouTube itself. So there are plenty of videos on what a day in the life looks like for financial analysts. I mean, I've made a video myself on that topic and I'll leave a link to that after this video ends so you can watch that one. And so by watching these videos and doing all this research, what it enables you to do is kick off the internship really well. And so you hit the ground running from day one itself, and people just perceive you to be knowledgeable and at least enthusiastic about learning about the industry. And so that's really important. You want to make sure that you're well prepared ahead. So for example, you can look at, as I said, what the team does, what the organization does, but also think about industry news, for example. Read what's going on in the industry, what the recent trends are, and also things such as you can look at technical elements as well. I'd encourage you to look at simple things to start off with. So for example, if you're joining in the M&A team, you can look at things such as a simple DCF. How do you construct a simple DCF? And so what that means is you've got an idea, and naturally you won't know everything in detail and no one will expect you to, but if it does ever come up during your internship, you have some idea and you're not starting from zero on the DCF. So that's why you should do your preparation beforehand. Even things like being in meetings, you might be able to understand a concept which might be spoken of during a meeting, and if you haven't done that preparation, you're just going to hear about that particular term for the first time in that meeting and you certainly won't have a clue. And I highly doubt people are going to spend time during that meeting going over a particular concept because most of the people in that room will already know what it means. So certainly they won't be looking at you and asking you an explanation on that concept, but if you're already prepared and you know what they're talking about, it certainly helps you to understand the context of that meeting and just means that you aren't left out on the conversation really. And so it's really important that you do your preparation beforehand, and there's so many resources out there now that there really isn't any excuse not to do it. Another thing is by doing all this research, you will pick up things much more quickly when you're working on your internship. And that's a really important thing which you'll be judged on, because when you do come in as a graduate, hopefully, you'll be learning a lot, and so your success as a graduate will be determined by how quickly you learn. And so if you can demonstrate during your internship that you've got some knowledge already and you can build on that very quickly, that'll certainly set you up again for success in terms of getting onto the graduate program and getting that full-time and permanent role that you're after. Another reason why you should be doing this is, let's say industry trends, for example, or industry news. You can bring it up in conversation with whether it be sort of junior employees and senior employees. And so you've got that common topic to talk about where you're both relatively knowledgeable, or well, they'll naturally have more knowledge about it, but you've got at least some knowledge about it, and you can discuss your opinions or your thoughts and ask them about their opinions about that topic. And so it gives you a topic of conversation very easily. So definitely do your preparation before your first day, and it'll set you up in the right way to have a successful internship. Another really important thing during your internship is that you start to build connections as soon as possible. When you do join the firm, you'll be on a 3-month internship or a 6-month internship, for example, or it might even be shorter. You haven't got too much time to get settled in, and so I'd encourage you to be on the front foot when it comes to starting to build relationships. Once you get sort of introduced to the team, make sure that everyone in the team knows who you are. For example, during your introductions day, you might be introduced to the team, you meet most of the team, but some people might be away from the office, they might be off ill or whatever. So when they do come back to the office, make sure that you're sort of introducing yourself when they have the time. And another way that you can make an introduction is by setting up introductory coffees with everyone once you get started. So you can ask everyone via a short email saying, I've just joined the team as an intern, I'd love to hear about your background, about your career, understand what you do in the team, and I'd love to tell you a bit more about myself and why I've decided to join the team. And so I think very rarely will you get rejected from that invitation for a coffee, and so that's a great way to start meeting everyone in the team and making sure that everyone in the team knows who you are. And again, you've joined the internship to learn about what the team does and the different roles that people have in that team, and so that's why you're there. You're there to learn about that role and that career. So certainly make the most of that and be on the front foot, as I said, about making sure that people know who you are. During these coffees, naturally you'll have a lot of questions about their careers and how they've got into the positions that they are, but also make sure that you're conveying a lot about yourself in terms of your background, why you chose that team, and that's how you build a proper relationship. And why it's important to build these relationships is because once your internship is done and once it comes down to the decision about whether you get a full-time permanent role or not, they'll ask the other team members about their opinions on you, and naturally they'll judge you primarily on the work that you've done, but also on how you are as a person and whether they get along with you. And so that's a really important factor, and it's a checkbox that you can easily tick off by having these coffees, having these introductory coffees, and getting to know people on a more personal level. And so definitely be on the front foot when it comes to building these relationships from day one itself. Another thing to mention during these coffees to get on the right side of people is offer your assistance to them, and you can say something along the lines that you're more than happy to help them at any time with any assistance that they need, and that'll show enthusiasm, which will definitely go a long way. So now it comes down to the work itself, and one key piece of advice that I'd give you here is focus on the simple things and make sure that you're doing the simple things correctly. So that means making sure that you take down notes about what you've been asked to do, knowing things such as when the deadline is or when you're expected to hand in your piece of work to your manager or the person that's assigned you that task. And so these simple things are really important, and people are going to judge you for that, certainly when you're an intern. And so things such as working towards the deadline, you really want to avoid handing work after a deadline. And if you are struggling to complete a task, you need to reach out to the person who set you that task to ask them for help. And that's more than acceptable because they know you're an intern and you've probably never done that particular task before. Asking the person who set the task to you for help is certainly okay, and they'd much prefer that over you not asking them for help and the deadline looming ever closer. And so when they ask you about progress and you haven't got too much to show, that's not really going to impress them. And so definitely reach out and ask for assistance when you need it, and so the team doesn't suffer because of that. So you really want to be proactively communicating how you're doing with the manager or with the person that has set you that task. Another thing about taking down notes, yes, take down notes about what you've been asked to do, and also take down notes about feedback that you get. Feedback's really important, and take that on, and it'll really look positive if you can demonstrate that you've acted on the feedback. And so people will realize that you are a quick learner and someone that's enthusiastic and keen to improve in their careers, and that's certainly going to again put you in a good position when it comes to getting that full-time role. Another thing is about making sure that you're asking plenty of questions. People will expect questions from you, and certainly make most of that opportunity. Ask questions about the piece of work that you're doing, what it's used for, how would the person that set it to you do it, Ask about the team, ask about how the team serves its clients, ask about how career progression works in that team. You can also ask about why certain decisions are made and about the team strategy moving forward. So, and definitely take the chance to ask those questions, because that's what you're there for, to learn about that career and that specific role. And people will expect that because they would have been in that position. They would have started off at an internship, for example. And so they know that you haven't got too much previous knowledge, and they'll be more than happy to guide you in the right direction. Another important characteristic to show, in my opinion, is being proactive. And this can be in the form of putting your hand up when people need assistance. That's certainly one way to do it. But you can also show it by asking the person who's in charge of you during your internship that you want to work in a particular field, or you want to work on a particular task. So for example, if you're working in the M&A team, you might tell them that you want to work on valuations, or you might tell them that you want to help writing an IM, for example. And this shows that you've got enthusiasm for a particular topic and that you're interested in learning more about that field. So it'll certainly go down well. Another thing to do on a pretty much daily basis is to reflect on how other people work and how other people communicate with clients. For example, if it's a client-facing role, how other people write business emails. So by reflecting on this and trying to understand why your team members do certain things or do things in a particular way, you'll naturally start to embody those characteristics slowly. And going back to the previous point, you can also ask them questions about why they do certain things. But I think taking time to reflect on why things work the way they do is really going to help you, and I think will improve your performance during the internship. One more thing to say here is don't worry about making too many mistakes. People naturally almost expect you to make mistakes, having not done the job before and being pretty new at work. I suppose one thing to caveat about this is you don't want to make the same mistakes over and over again. That'll naturally be frustrating for the person managing you or the one setting you tasks. So as long as you make a mistake once or twice, that's fine, but you should be learning from your mistakes. And as long as you're showing progress, no matter how slow, you should be doing fine. So those were some tips about how you can be successful during your internship. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. As I said, if you want to learn more about what a day in the life of a financial analyst looks like, click on the video on your screen right now. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.